StraighTAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is regarding what other people think about you. That's the topic here today, regarding what other people think about you. Now, I got to thinking about this subject for a specific reason. That's usually where the topics of these episodes come from. Something specific happened, and then I think of what is a bigger point that I can make here to my audience to help illustrate this point. Is I saw a lot of black people who are often referred to as race hustlers. You should listen to episode 1874, where I exposed and explained the race hustler, who they are, what they do, and why they do what they do, the race hustlers that they are. When I talked about them, these people who are called race hustlers, I will see them telling other black people that white people, and they say this and they use different terms to express it, but they're all generally saying the same thing, which is that white people have a generally negative view of black people. So white people in general have a negative view of black people in general, especially if you're a black person who is on your way towards or has somewhat and in some way achieved success. In other words, the race hustler tells other black people that when you get to the point of achieving success or you have achieved success, white people get angrier and angrier about the fact that you, as a black person, who the race hustler is telling you that the white person sees as less than, they cannot understand nor can they stomach or accept the fact that a black person is becoming successful or has become successful. This is one of the major approaches of the race hustler. They language it in all different ways, but this is one of the general points of the race hustler, is that they preach to black people that white people just don't want to see black people succeed. Now, while I find this entire argument completely disingenuous, and there's a lot of other language I can use to describe it. Listen to some of my previous episodes regarding these fools to help you understand, because it often comes from people who have already created some level of success, while, interestingly enough, working for the very white people they are demonizing. I still must address it, because many less successful black people tend to be swayed and influenced by this bullshit argument from the race hustler. So that's what I'm going to do today, doing my duty and debunking the bullshit as usual. And again, I'm using the black-white thing as a frame for this, but it's not really about race. So if you're white, what I'm going to say here today applies to you as well. You may have to translate some of it because I'm going to use the black and white thing as a frame here, but this applies to everybody who is listening to this. So what happens, just to make sure you all understand, is that the race hustler, who's a black person who preaches to black people about, they basically take any subject that happens and they extrapolate the racial angle or create one if there isn't one. And then they preach to black people that this is why you need to get excited and angry and paying attention. And the only way to figure out what to do next is that you got to keep paying attention to the race hustler so that the race hustler can tell you what to do next. That's why it's a hustle, because this is a business model for the race hustler. That's why I called them out as race hustlers. If they were just talking about race just because they had nothing better to do, I would call them something else, like a race baiter. But a race hustler is a person who's doing it as a business model, and there are plenty of them out there, many of whom I have pointed out in the past, and I will continue to point out in the present and going into the future. So what these race hustlers do is that they tell black people that you being successful means the white people are going to be madder and madder at you, and they're going to try to make it worse and worse for you, even though you've created success. And the race hustler who is saying this is usually a person who has created some level of prominence or respect or authority in the community because they've achieved some level of, again, accomplishment that you can look at and you can measure. And these people have usually gotten to the level of accomplishment not by being some independent business owner, but also by working for the very white people that they are now demonizing, which makes it interesting because even while they're doing that, the white people who are paying them to become who they became keep paying them to keep talking shit about white people. There are black people out there who talk shit about white people for a living and get paid by white people to do it, believe it or not. And if you're white, you can figure out why that's happening. I think that's an internal issue for white people to figure out, but it is a real thing. And again, I've called out many race hustlers, and they are exactly this. Ibram X. Kendi, for example, he wrote the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And I broke down the complete bullshit in his trashy book called just How to Be an Anti-Racist, episode number 1788 in a 4-part series. He ain't published by no black company. That ain't no black publisher that he wrote that book through. That's through a traditional publisher, which is that company's owned by white people, and they're the ones who put his book out. and he was working at Boston University. That ain't no HBCU. I think it's Boston University. Yeah, that ain't no HBCU. They know exactly what he's about. His whole thing is about, all right, black people have been done wrong by white people, and white people need to undo this, and white people paid him to keep saying it. And he ain't the only one. I'm just using him as an example. There's a whole bunch of them. So I'm pointing all that out to say that today's topic, again, is about what other people think of you, or at least what you think they think of you. Point number one. It is not your business. What other people think of you is not your business. It's not up to you what they think, nor is there much you can do about it. Even if you knew what they thought, you can't do anything about it. You don't actually know. You think what they think about you. You don't know what they think about you. And even if you did know, what you gonna do? What was the movie where you could read other people's minds? There was a movie, I forget the name of that movie, where the guy had the ability to read everyone's minds, and he started just reacting to the thoughts that people were having rather than what they were actually saying. And I forget what movie. I think it was a Jim Carrey movie. I'm not a big movie guy, but some of you know the movie I'm talking about. All right, that's not real. All right, it's a fucking movie. All right, it's not real. You can't read another person's mind. You cannot control other people's thoughts, and people can think whatever they want for whatever reason they want to. Whatever they're thinking, they're allowed to think it, and whatever reason they have for thinking it, they're allowed to, even if you think they're completely wrong. Same thing goes for you and other people looking at you. The good news and the bad news is that there is no human on the planet ever, in the present and in the past, never has there been a human who has the ability to read the mind of another person. None of you can read another person's mind. I cannot read your mind. You cannot read anyone's mind. No one has this ability. So if you're going around thinking about what somebody else might be thinking about you, you are already wasting two of your most valuable resources, your time and your energy. And that means you're not putting them towards where they should be going, which is what you need to be doing and what you personally think about yourself and your goals and your plans and your duties and responsibilities. All right, that's what you need to be doing and thinking about and taking advantage of. That controls a lot more of your life than what somebody else might be thinking, which again, you are only able to guess at, because you can never truly know what's going on in the mind of another person. Even if someone tells you what they're thinking, it doesn't mean they're telling you the truth. Does anybody ask you what you're thinking about something and you told them something that wasn't actually your real thoughts? Has any of you ever done that? All of us have done it, which means what? If someone even tries to tell you what they're thinking, they might not be telling you the truth, because you, just use yourself as an example, you've done it. Somebody asked you what you were thinking. You didn't tell them what you were really thinking. You told them some other form of what you were thinking for whatever reason, and you didn't tell them the truth. So if somebody else tells you what they're thinking, they're not telling you the truth either, which means you can never actually know the thoughts of another person. You can judge their words and their actions. You cannot judge another person's thoughts because you don't know them. You can't judge something you're not aware of. But you see a lot of people wasting mental energy on the assumptions of what other people are thinking. And the reality of it, it doesn't really matter. And you know why? Point number two. Today's topic, once again, is regarding what other people think of you. Number two, you cannot read nor police thoughts. I just told you, none of you possess the ability to read another person's mind. It is impossible. None of you can do it. I don't have to know you. I don't have to ever meet you. And I know this is true. It is impossible to know another person's thoughts. You can listen to people's words and you can converse with them about what they say. You can look at another person's actions. And if you so choose, you can judge their actions. But you cannot read their thoughts. This is why the common point of the race hustler and other losers of life, and race hustler is generally, I'm speaking mentally, mindset wise, approach wise, they're a loser. They may actually be winning business wise because they're making money from their hustling, but mindset wise, they're a loser. And I've explained to you why they're losers. Their focus is on what they claim other people are thinking, i.e., white people hate you because they're racist and they don't want to see black people succeeding. All right, first of all, racism is a way of thinking, it's not an action. Look at the definition of racism. The first definition of the word is a way of thinking that you believe is a thought, that one race is superior to the other just by virtue of their race. All right, that's racism. That's the main definition of racism. Racism is a thought, it is not a behavior. Racism is not an institution. Racism is not a building, it's not a system, it's not a government, it's a thought. Anyone who tries to redefine racism as to something other than what I just said is already hustling you. They're redefining the word so that they can get you to go along with everything else. But if you disagree with the redefinition, then the rest of their argument falls flat and it falls to pieces. This is the reason why Ibram X. Kendi's book was garbage, because his whole book was based on a redefining of the word racism into something that he made up. How that got through the copy editors and the fact checkers, I don't know, because I worked with traditional publishers before and they fact check every fucking thing that I said. His whole book is based on a false assumption. And they got this book get through the publisher. Now, we know why, because they wanted to make some money. All right, black or white, they don't care. All right, it's going to make us some money. Let's do it. Different conversation for, again, episode 1788, where I explain all of this to you. But anyway, race hustlers, this gives them a convenient excuse. This being, hey, here's what white people are thinking about you black people. All right, this gives them a convenient excuse to portray whatever they want onto another person because it's untraceable and unprovable. So there's always an argument about the subject. This is the genius of the race hustler. Okay, so even though I'm not going to race hustler, I give the race hustler credit because they came up with a genius strategy. All right, I don't knock anybody's hustle. I'm trashing the fact that I'm trashing the outcomes of their hustle, but I'm not trashing the fact that they have a hustle. This is a great hustle. A drug dealer is a great hustle because there's always going to be somebody who wants to take some illicit drugs and destroy themselves. And if you want to sell it, that's a great hustle for you. I wouldn't do it, but I understand. The race hustler's main thing is projecting thoughts onto other people. And because thoughts are untraceable and you can't actually measure a thought and you cannot prove a thought, if you just keep asserting that somebody is thinking something, which they can't disprove, even though you can prove, you always have basis for making an argument. You understand? This is a beautiful idea. It's a beautiful idea. This is a self-sustaining process to be the race hustler because it's based on thoughts that you are projecting onto other people that as soon as they start to try to defend themselves, they look guilty. You call a white person racist and they say, no, I'm not. Well, they're already defending themselves. They're defending themselves against what you said. It's a trap. That's the whole point. And if they say nothing, then they look guilty just because you accuse them. And this is the problem with the race hustler. Okay, so if you listen to enough race hustlers talk, you will notice that this is usually their frame. And how do they support their frame? Because if someone like me is confronting them, what would they say back to somebody like me? Well, I'll tell you what they would say. They would push back against me, calling them out on their bullshit by noting and citing a handful of conveniently chosen facts to support their claim. Hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? They'll have more than a handful. They might have a couple armfuls of facts taken out of context of the bigger picture of life to support what they are asserting about white people and what white people must be thinking, even though them themselves are not white. And this is supported by the fact that there's a whole bunch of people who want to believe it. These are the black proteges of the race hustlers or the customers of the race hustler. They want to believe negative things about white people because it gives them an excuse the same way that broke people want an excuse to blame the rich people. All right, same way, there are a bunch of losing black people who love the excuse of blaming white people and quote unquote racism. It's the same frame that someone uses, the same frame that Bernie Sanders and AOC want to use to tell poor people or people who don't feel like they're doing well financially that your problem is not anything that you've done. No, the problem is all these rich billionaires out here. They're the ones who are keeping you broke. It's a complete bullshit argument if you look at it rationally and logically. But let me ask you a question. Are there a lot of people who accept this argument and very much want and need to believe it? The answer is, of course, there is. And this ain't new, by the way. It just gets recycled. Every generation just gets recycled through new faces, new names, and new terms, but it's all the same argument. Take a bunch of people who are not achieving at the level in which they want to achieve. You come up with a boogeyman to blame for their problems as anything other than themselves. You keep saying it over and over and over again, and they will buy into it because most people would rather have an excuse than to be held accountable. Simple as that. Black people are no exception. They'd rather be given an excuse, oh, it must be white people and racism, rather than the fact that you aren't doing your fucking job, that you are not taking care of your home, you are not taking care of your community, you are not checking the idiots in your own community from tearing down the community. You ain't doing nothing about that. But instead of holding you accountable for that part, let's just blame white people and racism. That explains your whole situation, of course. And again, take black and white out of it and substitute poor and rich. Substitute people who are struggling with billionaires. It's the exact same thing. And any other group you can name. There's groups like this in every community, every space, every subgroup, everything, every industry, every profession. There are groups like this. Whoever it is at the top doing their thing, there's a bunch of people at the bottom who want a convenient excuse for why they're at the bottom, and they will go look at the people at the top and come up with somehow, some way to blame them for the fact that you are where you are. Why? Because anything other than that will mean you holding yourself accountable. And how many humans do you know who actively seek for ways to hold themselves accountable? How many people do you know who fit that description? Everyone who's listening to me. How many people you know who fit that description? You might know 10 people. If you know 10 people, wherever you are, stay there. Because you are an exception. Most of you can't even name 5. That's it. Most of you can't even name 5. I can't name 5. I know a lot of people. Actually, I probably could name 5, but I don't talk to everybody I know about this. So But I will tell you the number of people who I think would fit this description. I can name more than 5. I could probably name more than 10. I think of the people who I know if I ever talk to them about this. People who I've talked to about anything around this, I can't name 5. Most human beings would rather accept an excuse than accountability. This is just a general rule. Even if you could read another person's thoughts, let's just say you had that ability. You could read another person's thoughts. What the hell are you going to do about it? Once you start reading people's thoughts and you know exactly what they're thinking about you, what are you going to do? I'll tell you what you would do. First of all, you would be distracted because you spend so much time considering what you just read on another person's brain that you would forget about reading what's on your brain, which is much more important. So you'd be very distracted, first of all. You think social media is distracting. Imagine if you had the ability to read other people's thoughts. Let's say you only had the ability to read other people's thoughts about you. Just anybody who's thinking anything about you, what are they saying? And you just knew exactly what it was, who it was, every single moment somebody thought about you. You would be extremely distracted. Again, you think a smartphone is distracting. Imagine if you had this ability. What are you going to do? You going to call the cops? I mean, what are you going to do? People can think whatever they want, again, for whatever reason they want, for as long or as short or as hard or as soft as they wish. As I've already told you in the first point, any energy that you give to what you think other people are thinking, or even what you know other people are thinking, is a waste of your resources because you can't control thought. You cannot police thinking. The very goal of the race hustler is to get you to use your resources, thinking about what the race hustler is telling you to think about. And then it requires you, because you bought into what the race hustler told you to think about, now you got to keep going back to the well of the race hustler to figure out what to do next based on the thoughts that they planted in your mind. That's the hustle. The hustle was to get you addicted to the drug, so you got to keep coming back to the drug dealer to get the drug. That's the hustle in and of itself. That's why drug dealers will give away a free sample of a drug to get you hooked on the drug, because they know the free sample that they give away, the loss of giving you that loss leader, so to speak, they're going to more than make up for that and profit with all the drugs they're going to sell you moving forward, because they want to get you hooked with the first free sample. Same thing the race hustler does. It's just like a drug dealer. I'm give you a free sample, and then I'm going to charge you for the rest. Again, that's why it's a hustle. Okay, you go back to the race hustler to get information and tools for which you can respond to this alleged problem that was planted in your mind by the hustler in the first place. Again, I told you, this is a beautiful business deal. It's a beautiful setup. Again, I'm envious of the race hustler. This is a beautiful setup. I wouldn't do what the race hustler does. I could very easily do it. I wouldn't do it, but I like the setup. I like the structure of their business model. It works very much. This is their game. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is regarding what other people think of you. Number 3, what you think shows in your energy and in your actions, which projects onto others what to think about you. So here's an argument. Actually, the race hustler uses this argument right here. This one I say is true. What you think as a person, it shows through your energy and in your actions. And then your energy and actions projects from you onto others what they should think about you, because other people can only think about you what they see in and from you. What they see, hear, and think and read, see, hear, observe, and read, and from you. Nobody can think anything about me that I haven't given you some reason to think it. I have to have done something to get you to think that thing. Something I did got you thinking that. When I do my live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, on every platform that offers streaming, every day somebody asks me if I'm a lawyer. Every day I get asked, are you a lawyer? Now, why do people ask me if I'm a lawyer? Not because I just randomly thought of that question. Nobody asked me if I'm a auto mechanic. Nobody asked me if I'm a soccer player. Nobody asked me if I'm nobody asked me if I'm a church pastor. Nobody ever asked me those questions. Why do everybody ask me if I'm a lawyer? They ask me if I'm a lawyer because I dress like one. I guess I talk like one. I argue like one. I try to be objective like one. So if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it might be a duck. Let me find out, is this a duck? I'm saying all that to say this. Whatever you project out into the world is going to give people a certain impression and is going to cause certain thoughts to pop up in their heads. And what does this mean? Your personal brand is not about what other people think of you, because other people can't think anything of you until they see and hear from you, which means your personal brand is based on what you do, how that projects onto the minds of others, and what conclusions or assertions or assumptions they draw from what they see coming from you. Your personal brand is all about you, because Google can't say anything about you that you haven't done something to cause to be said about you, even if you didn't say it. If there's 10 articles on Google about you, where'd those articles come from? Where'd they get the material from which to write the article? They got the material for the article from something that you did. Do you understand? Nobody can write an article about you if they haven't seen you or heard you or have some idea about you. That's the only reason they write the article. If you go on Google and find articles about me that weren't written by me, There's going to be somebody talking about, well, hey, I used to watch Dre's videos on YouTube, or I was at some conference and Dre was one of the speakers, or Dre was on some podcast and I heard him talking and it made me think about this. There's going to be something that I did, understand, something I did led to those thoughts that came out of the words or the fingers or the pen of the person who wrote that article. Do you understand? If you go on ChatGPT and ask them, give me a 2,000 word write-up on this guy, Dre Baldwin, guess what all the material is going to be based on? Shit that I did. All right, that's how we got it. That's where we got it from. I'm saying all that to say to you, it's the same thing when it comes to you. Take my name out of it, put your name in. Whatever the internet, quote unquote, is saying about you is based on something that you did. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% true. I'm saying there's something you did that led to those things being said, thought, and believed. If you're on the internet and ask people about Donald Trump, you're going to get half people saying positive. Actually, maybe about 30% of people saying positive things and 70% of people saying negative things. Why? Because there are some things that he did that led to other people thinking and believing things and then eventually saying things to the point that it led to a certain brand that he has amongst the wider population. I'm not saying whatever your brand is 100% true of you. It depends on who you are and how well you've tailored that brand or even how much you care. See, if someone like Donald Trump, I don't think he cares. You might care. I care. I care what's being said about me on Google. I don't think Donald Trump cares that much, and I don't think he can afford to care because there's too many things being said. But you understand what I'm saying. No, he's not even the best example. Most of us are not going to be president. Your personal brand starts with what you think of you, what you subsequently project out into the world based on that thought, and then everybody else picks up on that. Everybody get it? When I go to the gym, people ask me if I'm a professional athlete. Why? Because there's something that I'm doing and something that I'm projecting and something that I'm showing that gives people the impression that this guy is checking all the boxes of what they think a professional athlete looks like. So that's why they ask me. Now, if I didn't check those boxes, they wouldn't ask the question. You understand? When I go to the gym, nobody asks me if I'm a lawyer. Why? Because I don't look like one when I'm in the gym. And when I'm dressed the way I am now, as I'm recording this, nobody asks me if I'm an athlete because there's nothing about what I'm doing that says I'm an athlete. Maybe if I say it, you might guess it. But if I don't bring up sports while I'm talking and I'm dressed in a suit, nobody asks me if I'm an athlete. Even in person, nobody asks. When I'm dressed in a suit, if I don't say anything about sports, nobody asks. I mean, I'm tall, but I'm not that tall. I'm not like ridiculously tall. I'm 6'4", so I could be 6'4" and have never played a sport. That would be acceptable. Now, if I was 7 feet, then somebody would say that you must have played basketball at some point. I would guess if I was maybe even 6'8" or taller, I would probably get that all the time, even in a suit. But at 6'4", I can get away with. If I told people I never played a sport, nobody would be like, "Oh my God, why not?" 6'8", yes, I would get that. Here's the point, folks. How you project yourself, how you put yourself out there tells everybody else what to think about you. They might be wrong. Let's be clear. Just because somebody thinks something about you doesn't mean they're right. People can guess things about you and be wrong. Again, I haven't played a professional sport in 10 years, but I still get people asking me if I'm an athlete when they see me in athletic gear. They are technically wrong, but technically not. It doesn't bother me that they guess that, but I changed my projected presentation because I wanted to short circuit that conversation from having to say, well, I used to be, but now I'm this. Now I get them to go straight to what I am now because I look like what I am now. Point being, my personal brand in the minds of people who see me every day, who I never even talk to, say, I see you all the time and I see you in your suit and I see you with your kid and all that. Where they getting the idea? From what they see. I choose how I project myself. I choose how I present myself. And guess what? So do you. Online and offline, folks. Everyone else in the world picks up on what you put out there. Their thoughts about you are based on what you have given them to work with. Their thoughts about you are based on what you have given them to work with. If you don't like what you think other people are thinking about you, you should ask yourself, what have I given them to come up with whatever I think they're thinking? Because they got something from you. Something came from you. What is it? People cannot formulate a thought about you without some input from you. They had to have gotten that from somewhere. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what if somebody just starts spreading lies about me and people who have never met me come up with an idea about me and they don't even know who I am? Does that happen? Yes, it does happen. No, where'd that come from? Okay. The person who starts spreading lies about you, did they see you? Yes. Okay. What they see in you or from you or hear from you that caused them to come up with that thought. I'm not saying that they're right in doing it. I'm just asking, at some point in the chain, you did or said or showed something that caused somebody to come up with an idea. That's what I'm saying. There are people out there who have negative impressions of me. People who've seen me on the internet, they don't know me in person, but they see me on the internet. They have some negative opinion of me, either because of something that they saw, but something that was taken out of context, something that I actually said that they just disagreed with, something I did. That's the point. Something I did led them to thinking like that. Now, again, whether it's in full context or not, whether they really understood me or not, whether they're just an idiot who doesn't know how to think or not, doesn't matter. The point is, there's something I did that led to that thought. So I got to take ownership of that. Doesn't mean that they're right. Again, doesn't mean I had to agree with them. And doesn't mean I'm even going to try to change their minds. They can think whatever they want to think, if that's what I decide is the case. But I can't say I had nothing to do with it. I had everything to do with it. Whatever you put out into the world is the basis of your personal brand. Therefore, if you want your brand to change what you're putting out there so that people can have a different perception and different material to work with. If you think that they are thinking negatively of you, the energy you project based on that thought leads them to doing exactly what you thought they were doing. So if you think people think, if you're a black person, you walk into a room full of white people and you think they're all thinking, look at this N-word walking into the room. If you think that, you're going to have energy that projects. That's what you think. And guess what? They're going to pick up on that. It doesn't mean they're going to start calling you the N-word to your face. But if you're projecting that energy, then people are going to pick up on energy. Our energy cannot lie. I told you the first 3 laws of energy. Energy cannot lie. And also energy moves in a circular motion. Energy you put out is the energy that you get back. That's also known as the law of karma. All of you are familiar with that. Most of you agree with it. If you're projecting energy that you think people are thinking negatively of you, well, they might start thinking negatively of you simply because you thought that they were, even if they weren't. Meaning you can affect other people's thoughts about you by the way you conduct yourself. Magic formula. So the energy you project based on certain thoughts leads to other people believing exactly what you thought they already believe. And it might not even be true. You might have been wrong, but now you changed their mind. And again, it's not because of them, it's because of you. You sent that energy out in front of you. They picked up on the energy. And you got to remember, energy is contagious. It's another law of energy. First law of energy is that energy is everything. It's neither created nor destroyed. That's the law of conservation of energy. Second one is that energy is contagious. All right, people pick up on energy and they project your energy back to you. Third one is that energy cannot lie. If you ask someone, how are you doing? And they say, I'm fine. And you can tell that they're not fine because their energy is saying one thing, but their words are saying another. Which one do you believe? The energy or the words? You should believe the energy because energy can't lie. Words can lie. You ever been lied to? Anybody ever lied to you with their words? Okay. Have you ever lied to somebody with your words? Okay. You cannot lie with your energy. You cannot lie with your energy. And energy is everything. Let's recap today's class, which is regarding what other people think of you. I got to thinking about this again, as I told you, the race hustlers I see out here, but that's not what this topic is actually about. I'm just using them as a frame. Point number one, it's not your business what other people think of you. You can't do anything about it anyway. So why does it even matter? You shouldn't concern yourself with it because you will never actually know. And even if you did know, point number two, you cannot read nor police other people's thoughts. All right, just because even if you knew exactly what another person was thinking about you, what are you going to do? Again, you're going to call the cops. You can listen to people's words. You can judge their actions. You cannot read their thoughts. So do not waste your most valuable resources, your attention, your focus, and your energy on what you think other people might be thinking about you. Because even if you could come up with an accurate answer, there's still nothing you can do about that information. Number three, what you think shows in your energy and your actions, which projects onto others what you think of you. Again, remember the laws of energy. Energy is everything. Energy is contagious, and energy cannot lie. In other words, what you are thinking in your mind controls most of your energy. You change what's going on in your mind. You change the way you project yourself. You change your presentation. You change your energy. It changes how other people perceive you. Simple as that. There is no way around this. These are laws of energy. These are not theories. They are not opinions. They are not optional. Now, you can pretend as if you don't understand them. You can feign ignorance if you wish, but understand the law still applies to you whether you use it or not. That's why they're laws. All that said, ladies and gentlemen, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach so we can start putting these laws of all these things I told you, the laws of inertia, the laws of association, the laws of economics, the laws of energy, and more laws that we got coming moving forward. I got some more laws I'm going to share with you so that you understand things that you cannot go against regardless of your personal opinions. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach. Let's get direct. Let's get to the point. Let's get serious and let's do it fast. Work on your game. Dre all day.